The Xbox, Microsoft's firstborn. Not the cleanest, not the quietest, definitely not the cheapest, but it stomped into the room like a green cyborg toddler holding a plasma grenade and yelling, "I came to game." And it was the first gaming console ever built by a company that thought in spreadsheets. Yet it somehow launched one of the most game-changing machines of all time. Sony had the throne, Nintendo had the legacy, Sega was, crying in the corner, who cares? And then here comes Microsoft, like a kid who showed up late to a dodgeball tournament, but brought a cannon. Microsoft had been watching Sony's rise for a while, specifically how the PlayStation was slowly becoming the new centerpiece of the living room. Microsoft's developers, Kevin, Seamus, Otis, and Ted, 4 engineers inside Microsoft, realized that if Sony kept getting unchecked, the entire future of digital entertainment might be driven by a company Microsoft didn't control. This wasn't just a competition. This was existential, so they took the guts of the PC, slapped on DirectX software, wrapped it in a black box, and called it the DirectX box. The name eventually became just Xbox, cooler, simpler, and way easier to shout over an explosion in a shooter. Bill Gates was really skeptical at first, because Microsoft has never built a console. They were a software company. They did office stuff, not offensive stuff. But when Sony dropped the PlayStation 2 reveal in 1999, Gates just felt the pressure. The PS2 wasn't just another console, it was a DVD player, a multimedia hub, and a potential replacement for the family PC. That was enough to flip the switch, and then Microsoft went all in, and not just on specs. They wanted control over the living room, they wanted a legacy, and they were willing to bet billions. And then there was word spreading around 2000 that Microsoft was in talks to buy Nintendo outright. And this wasn't just a made-up forum rumor. Microsoft actually flew to Japan, pitched a full-on acquisition, and Nintendo laughed them out of the room. Literally laughed. Kevin, the Xbox co-creator, actually confirmed they couldn't even finish the PowerPoint before Nintendo executives burst into laughter. The rumor mill spun into a done deal that Microsoft was going to rebrand Nintendo's characters under the Xbox. Super Mario Windows XP Edition was never real, but it made people sweat. And then there was a lot of rumors in the early units that some players swore that the Xbox got so hot that it warped game discs, especially if you left it inside while the console idled. While Microsoft never officially confirmed that this hardware was a defect, the early Xbox was notorious for running hot. Forums were full of players saying my disc came out looking like a Pringle. Not quite a fire hazard, but definitely a don't touch the back with a bare foot situation. And then you have Sega with the Dreamcast dying and Microsoft just trying to enter the ring. Rumors exploded that two would merge hardware, or that the Xbox would run Dreamcast games natively. Some even said that Sega was secretly helping Microsoft design the Xbox OS. Fun fact, there's a fun fact, Microsoft did consider backwards capability with the Dreamcast games early on, but it never happened. Still, it kept Dreamcast fans hooked on hope. Now while Sony bathed in third-party gold and Nintendo polished their purple GameCube, Microsoft hit the lab. Instead of designing custom chips like the others, they went with PC parts. An Intel Pentium 3 processor, NVIDIA GeForce 3 based GPU, a built-in hard drive, and most shockingly, an Ethernet port. This was power on steroids. It was like putting a tank engine in a Honda Civic. Sure, it was heavy, sure it ran hot, but it moved. Developers loved it. It made creating console games feel more like building PC titles. And then with Xbox Live on the horizon, Microsoft wasn't just aiming for now, they were aiming for next. Then came the launch date, November 15th, 2001. The Xbox officially released in North America and Microsoft threw everything at it. The flagship launch event was held at Toys R Us in Times Square in New York City, and it was bigger than just a project drop. Bill Gates was their personality, sleeves rolled up, standing beside Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. The Rock delivered his lines with perfect wrestling charisma. Gates tried to keep up with the cool factor, and together they unveiled the console to the world. It wasn't just awkward and electric, it was perfectly awkward and electric. The first console sold that night, handed off on the first fan in line by Gates himself, and that wasn't just PR. Microsoft was serious about showing up for gamers, but behind the scenes, chaos. Shipments were tight, units arrived late on retailers, some stores even got way fewer consoles than promised. Developers scrambled to hit deadlines, there were bugs, the OS had stability issues, early versions of the Xbox dev kit were so rough. Developers joked that the real challenge wasn't making the great games, it was getting the console to not crash mid-demo. But despite the bumps, launch night had a lot of energy. The Halo demo unit in Times Square was consistently surrounded. Kids stared through the glass, parents asked, "What the hell is this?" People who've never even heard of a Microsoft console left the store wondering why they suddenly wanted to fight aliens with a guy in a green armor. Other launch cities like LA, Chicago, San Francisco hosted their own midnight events, often with long lines and freezing fans waiting to get a box that is heavier than some microwaves. The Xbox launched with 20 games in North America. Most people only remember Halo Combat Evolved. Bungie had gone from an obscure Mac developer to the face of Microsoft's console division overnight. Halo had everything: tight shooter, open level design, co-op, LAN support, and iconic soundtrack, and the birth of Master Chief. Microsoft spent millions making Halo the star, and it worked. It wasn't just the best launch title of their generation, it redefined what a launch title could be. But there were a lot of other strong games too. Project Gotham Racing, which gave Xbox a stylish racing edge, Dead or Alive 3, showing off the system's graphics, and Oddworld Munch Odyssey, a quirky title with lots of charm. It wasn't a weak lineup, everything was just overshadowed by a certain space marine with a glowing green visor. Despite the shaky launch logistics, the press mostly praised the hardware. It was way more powerful than PS2 and the GameCube. Developers were impressed by the built-in hard drive, which allowed for better performance and faster loading. Microsoft made it clear online play was coming, and it was going to be big. Internally, the team was actually really sweating. They hadn't made it to the launch, but that wasn't even the real battle. But still, Microsoft didn't flinch. Even when sales were slow in Japan, even when retailers struggled to keep up stock in the US, even when GameCube launched a few days later, Microsoft kept pushing. Within a year, Xbox Live launched in November 2002, bringing voice chat, friends list, and matchmaking straight into players' living rooms. Halo 2 would eventually perfect the ecosystem, but even at launch, the Xbox made it clear the future was online and Microsoft was driving. And now, while it didn't sell the PS2, well, nothing did, it still hasn't. Nothing will. The Xbox buried the Dreamcast, shook Nintendo's dominance in the West, and earned Microsoft a permanent seat in the gaming table. It was raw, it was rocky, but it was real. The Xbox proved that innovation and brute force could beat nostalgia and legacy. The real nail in the coffin for Sega? It was watching Xbox do what they couldn't. Dominate online, survive competition, and launch with confidence. For Sony and Nintendo, it was realizing that Microsoft wasn't a one-time guest. This wasn't a side project, this was a war. The Xbox didn't just launch, it had arrived, and gaming would never pretty much be the same ever again.